They're calling it a mini budget, but honestly, it's far from that. Loads of massive changes have taken place today to the UK tax system, and some areas of the UK population are going to do very well out of this. Today, let's look at some of the biggest changes and how they affect normal people. There are some changes and a load of detail that I'm not going to cover in today's video, but I will link a load of resources for you in the description if you want to do some further reading. Today, I just want to focus on the main headlines of tax, housing, and energy costs. Just a trigger warning, some of this might make you scratch your head. Right, let's start with energy costs. We already knew about the price cap, which is quoted to take the average home's energy bill to £2,500 a year. Business bills are also going to be subsidised, which is honestly needed because there's a lot of small businesses in this country that are on the verge of collapse at the minute if they don't get immediate help. And when you consider that 12.9 million people in the UK are employed by small businesses, that part of the economy needs to be rescued. It's been suggested that this support for both homes and businesses is going to cost 60 billion over the next 6 months. Let's put a little counter up in the corner so we can run a total of how much all this is going to cost. Now that 60 billion is going to be repaid by the taxpayer. There is no more, windfall taxes on energy suppliers or anything like that being proposed here. Liz Truss's argument here is it's wrong to discourage investment in the UK by taxing businesses in this manner. Liz will say that her plan for this country is growth, through deregulation and cutting taxes, incentivising businesses to move here, and then we grow ourselves out of this mess. She is going to live and die by that mantra. So yeah, nothing new here with energy, just confirmation that as expected, the taxpayer will pick up the bill like we always seem to do. Banking or an energy crisis, don't worry about it, mate, just stick it on the tab. Right, now tax. Let's start with some kind of good news. The lower rate tax, which is currently 20p or 20% of every pound that you earn, is being dropped from 20p to 19p or 19%. This will kick in from next April. So that means any income you earn between £12,571 and £50,270 will be taxed at 19% instead of 20%, which will mean a pay rise in April for the majority of the UK. But this isn't a new idea. It was brought forward from its proposed changes in 2024 to 2023. My issue with this is people need help now, they don't need help in April. We've got to get through one hell of a bleak looking winter before that tax change comes into place. They've only brought it forward to the start of the next tax year. These proposed costs are going to cost the UK about £5 billion a year. But for anyone earning over £12,571 a year, from April you will get an extra 1p for every pound that you earn up to £50,270 range. After that you enter into the higher rate tax band of 40%, which brings us on to the next changes. They have abolished the additional rate of 45%. Now this one is bound to get people a bit flustered. Anyone earning over 150k a year in the past paid 45% on anything above that 150k. Now they're just going to pay 40%. What that means is someone on 60k is in the same tax bracket as someone on 2 million quid a year. Footballers and bankers just got a massive pay rise, not to mention the fact that they've also uncapped bankers' bonuses. Now I get that makes the UK more attractive from a finance perspective. It's just going to be a real bad message to deliver to people that you're removing this higher rate additional tax and then also uncapping bankers' bonuses. It seems like a lot of the benefits are skewed towards that end of the economic pie. I found some data that suggested 629,000 people pay this additional rate, which means that only 1% of the UK population benefits from this change. Just to be balanced, the top 1% of earners in the UK pay 31% of all the income tax, despite taking in 17% of the income. So you could argue that they pay a disproportionate amount into the tax system, and by cutting this down, you attract more of these 1% earners. But regardless of this, in my opinion, it's hardly fair that quote-unquote normal earners are only getting a 1% capped benefit between 12,700 and 50k approximately, whilst bankers and people earning over 150k a year are getting an uncapped 5% bonus.
That doesn't seem fair.
Personally, I would have been much happier if I was sat here right now saying they're lifting the tax-free earnings threshold from the 12k odd that it is at the minute up to say £16,000, because that would provide a benefit to loads of people, rather than this, oh, we're going to give you a penny in April after winter, and yeah, the super rich people, they're going to get 5%.
I think you got more than me.
People don't need tax cuts in April, they need help now. And while the energy cap is going to help loads of homes and probably takes a load of pressure off people, energy bills are still double what they were last year. And what about food? What support is there right now to help families that can't feed themselves going into what looks like a very bleak winter? I mean, stamp duty changes, they've occurred instantly. We'll talk about those in a minute, but it just surprises me that they can change stamp duty rules instantly, but these tax cuts, we've got to wait for April for those. Anyway, the cost of getting rid of this 45% tax bracket is forecasted to be $2 billion a year. I worked it out, that means there's 600,000 people, that 1% of the UK population that pay that additional rate currently, are going to earn on average £3,000 a year extra from April. Now, I just want to clarify, just because you earn over 150k a year doesn't make you a bad person. I'm not sat here going, oh, burn the rich, eat the rich, whatever. I just think these tax rules clearly shift that way in terms of benefit. We've also seen a reversal of some of the tax measures coming in. Corporation tax is staying at 19% and not raising to 25%. And the other one that is good news for workers is the national insurance rise will be reversed from the 6th of November. Reversing that national insurance rise means someone earning £20,000 a year will get an additional £1.79 a week, while a person on £100,000 will get an additional £21 a week. But really, this is a reversal of tax changes. It's not helping people out, it's just putting people back where they were. The cost of corporation tax is 12 billion rising to 18 billion, and the NI reversal will cost 17 billion. There are also some other changes to the tax landscape that I'm not going to go into much detail here, like the IR35 reforms that came in, they're being reversed, which is music to the ears of loads of contractors, I'd imagine. I'm not covering them because I think they're quite niche in their scope. But I would certainly consider contracting now if I hadn't in the past. To summarise the tax changes, you could say that everyone in the UK is going to get a tax cut and is going to be better off as a result of it. But people who earn the top bucks, people over 150k a year, they're going to benefit the most from these changes. And really, normal earners, people on the lower end of the scale, the only benefits they're getting are being put back to where they were before changes were made to worsen their tax positions. And a proposed benefit set for 2024 has been brought forward to 2023. There's nothing new here, really. Okay, let's look at housing and specifically tax on housing. Just when the housing market starts to look a little bit shaky, Liz comes along with a metaphorical truss and props the whole thing up. Honestly, I'm pretty happy with that wordplay if you know what a truss is. The level at which house buyers begin to pay stamp duty has doubled from 125k to 250k. First-time buyers will pay no stamp duty on homes worth 450k, which is up from 300k. Now, this is great news for a lot of people looking to move home. But it did get me thinking. Now, I do get that in London, for example, house prices are a lot more expensive, and £400,000 might actually be a first-time buyer's home in London. But for the rest of the UK, especially for anything north of the M25, 250k and under is first-time buyer territory. And what you've essentially done here is remove the only advantage they had when it came to purchasing properties. Because now no one needs to pay stamp duty on there. They can just outbid the first-time buyer. It's just classic supplement in demand to prop up the housing market instead of doing what's actually needed, which is building loads more goddamn homes. I also spotted some other interesting changes here. It looks like they're making it harder for people to strike, and they're also scrapping the proposed rise of duty on alcohol, meaning alcohol will stay at current prices. Bread and circuses, that quote springs to mind. So this new look Conservative government are going all out on growth here. They think that these cuts will encourage big business into the UK. I mean, maybe it will, who knows, but they're taking a big old risk with this strategy. Tax cuts like this, aka giving people more money, is inflationary in its nature. Inflation is running rampant and you're now giving people more money to spend. This means the government seems to be pulling the opposite way to the Bank of England. And what it will likely mean is interest rates need to rise in order to combat higher inflation. 100 billion is the headline figure, but that's only 6 months of energy costs. They forecast that it will be around 150 billion for energy, taking the total cost of this mini budget to 190 billion potentially. For context, or maybe I should say for Conte, that's enough to build 190 Tottenham Hotspur stadiums. You could also buy 1.25 Jeffs with that. Jokes, Jeffs and energy costs aside, that leaves 45 billion in tax cuts. Have a look at this tweet that Jordan in the Discord shared this morning when we were all talking about this. I'll leave details on how to join the Discord in the description below if you want to get involved. 45 billion of tax cuts, the biggest tax cutting event since 1972. Barber's dash for growth that ended in disaster. That budget is now known as the worst of modern times. 45 billion in tax cuts, and I can't see how the public reception to this isn't going to be, thanks for the penny next April, Liz, but what we really need is help right now, and this budget only really seems to benefit those high earners. I've tried to react to this quickly today, so I'm sorry if I've missed out any important detail or if there's anything that's changed since I recorded this. I would love to hear what people think about all of this in the comment section below. Now, I know that politics can be a touchy subject and people are going to have different opinions. I just want to say that my comment section is for anyone to get involved and share their opinions. So please be nice to each other and understand that some people are from different walks of life, vote differently to you and earn different amounts of money. Like I said before, just because someone earns more than 150k a year and is going to benefit from this doesn't make them a bad person. It's not their fault that these tax reforms are going to help them out loads.